Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to week 3 here on the Championship Network, anyway, of recapping the United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live. I am joined, as I was last week, by the one and only Todd Keneley, the voice of the United Wrestling Network. Todd, just amazing last night again. I can't compliment you and Alyssa and the whole team enough. Just amazing stuff last night. Good job, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun.
Incredible stuff. We are waiting for Alyssa to pop in. She is aware we have a 3 o'clock start, so hopefully she'll pop in momentarily. She's our special guest today. I ended up talking to her. I had a medical thing. Wasn't sure I was going to be back in time, but I made it, and it's all good. So I'm very, very happy to be here. A lot of people on social media, particularly Twitter, are saying that last night's episode was the best of the 3 so far. Where do you stand on that front, sir?
I thought it was a very good episode, and I thought that last night Primetime Live really did what it sets out to do, and that's just feature the wide spectrum of talent from all over the place and a little bit of something for everything, for everyone. 2 women's matches, 2 very physical women's matches, tag team title match, an NWA national title match that was, people have been longing for a long time. That obviously Crockett Cup didn't happen. East Coast guys like Papa Don, the Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson back in action with somebody that could actually step up and give them a go. I mean, I think I could see where people would say that. I mean, I think though last week was a tough act to follow, at least in my mind. I mean, maybe it's we're right here and maybe dead heat, but I just thought that last week with Danny Limelight and Kevin Martinson with a fast-paced, hard-hitting opener. You had Watts and Eli Drake. You had an incredible NWA World's Women's title match with Thunder Rosa defending Priscilla Kelly. That I think, and again, after the technical hiccups we had, maybe that's why too, in my mind, that maybe it gets the edge. The technical hiccups week 1, it was just week 2 just felt like such a victory for everybody involved that I think big, a weight off the shoulders and a sigh of relief. So at least for me, I think that maybe for me thus far in the infancy of this program, it edges it out. But I did love, like I said, last night was jam packed, and even much like UFC, when Alyssa's on, we'll talk more, but much like a UFC, sometimes fights will go quick and there'll be a quick finish here or there. So I thought it was kind of cool that we had Robert Baines and Jack Cartwright standing by. They were not officially announced for the card. They were.
I noticed that.
Yeah, in essence, an MMA swing bout is what you'd say, in MMA, and a bonus match, as I think we said last night. And I mean, from the journey from the hobo to the Robert Baines character.
Oh my God! Right.
In his longevity in championship wrestling from Hollywood and Arizona, it was just great to see Robert Baines, Brandon, Hobo, call him what you will, out there, and Jack Cartwright, who has been very talented, recently debuted on Hollywood, has been coming to Primetime Live, doing ring crew, helping out, just being on hand to do whatever he could. So he's 19 years old, and the kid's a phenomenal athlete, and very humble. So I was super happy for him to have an opportunity too. So for that match to get put on the card, literally last second, was a cool bonus as well. And I thought, it was just made for a fun and probably the most unpredictable of all the shows so far.
Well, you mentioned bringing your partner in crime, if you will, your co-host in. Let's go ahead and bring her on in right now. Alyssa Marino, come on in. How are you, dear?
Hey, everybody. How are you guys doing?
We're
Hey,
doing
long
great.
time.
It's great to welcome you to the Jeff Beecham Network and across the No DQ galaxy, and even on the Great Cherry brand. You're all over the place today. You're on 3 different channels at once today, so it's going to be a fun ride. Todd mentioned that last night there was a little mix of everything, and I was telling Todd just before, like literally before you popped into my little window here, so here I am. I mentioned that a lot of people are saying that last night was the best of the three, and Todd countered with week 2 was a huge part because week 2 was kind of like, okay, got through that one because week 1 was such a train wreck that week 2 was like, oh, thank God. Where do you stand?
I'm sure Todd already touched on the power outage because that was like, wow, maiden voyage. No, I think week 2, I think felt really good. It felt like that. Okay, like we're getting the swing of things. Everything's feeling a little bit more cohesive. But I think week 3 just had so much action. I think the women's division in full effect, the tag titles on the line, a new NWA national champion. I think there was so much going on in week 3. So I definitely think action wise, we keep amping it up every time, which I love.
And a lot of people like me, for example, aren't familiar with you prior to seeing you in the last, I guess, year, maybe 2 on Hollywood, because I was around back when I was a youngin' in Hollywood wrestling, back in the old freaking showcase days, there was no Alyssa Marino, but TK and I were there, plugging away. Where did you get your start prior to hooking up with Dave Marquez and everybody? Where's your evolution in your career?
Yeah, so mine actually came from Santino Brothers Dojo.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right on. Love it.
Yeah, so Santino Brothers in 2017 did a managers and announcers class.
Yes, they did.
Yes. So I was able to take part in that and be under the learning tree of Santino Brothers. And,
man.
Yeah, learned a ton, and then just found my way to Hollywood as Kathy Campanelli, and
yes.
Now I just decided to come back as me.
I love it. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Joey and Sylvia and everybody there. It is a damn crime that they had to cease operations. Hopefully this pandemic will go away and we can get them back on track, because I feel there's no better school for all around everybody in the business, whether it's announcing, whether it's refereeing, whether it's managers, whether it's wrestlers, than the Santino brothers. So I can't say enough good things.
And they're still working it out online. They're doing online courses now to kind of just
teach
people like the ins and outs. But yeah, there's nothing like the real thing. So
no, and if you're not familiar with the area they are, if you blink, you'll drive past the damn warehouse. So it's like you don't know where the hell you're going. Yeah, exactly. We my son and I and his mom went to one of their. It's not a house show, but for lack of a better term, a house show, and just that was when Famous B was starting to really come into his own, and we had a time because we were on public transit trying to find the place. It was a chore. Goodness. So going down there, coming from where we were in Long Beach, it was chaos. Chaos, ironically enough. So there you go. So let's get into it. The show kicked off with a hell of a match. We had a tag team championship match, the United Wrestling Tag Champions, SoCal Distancing. We mentioned, people coming up in the business. Both of you have seen the evolution, or I should say the devolving, I suppose, of Andy Brown, Adrian Quest over the last few beats here. And I was at the EWS shows when Andy was the squeaky clean, heroic, fighting for his mom baby face, and Andy Brown is not that person anymore at all. Todd, tell me about Andy and Adrian and where and how they've just completely metamorphosized in the last year or so. It's been crazy to see.
Sure. Well, and I wouldn't say that Andy and Adrian have devolved at all. In fact, they're doing quite well. Static certainly devolved.
Well, as far as devolved as far as their attitude and personality, shall we say?
Okay, sure. Yeah, it was very interesting to see that whole storytelling, and that's a great part of having a weekly episodic show like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You had guys like both Andy Brown and Adrian Quest. They came onto the scene with great fanfare, of course. And Andy eventually would win the Red Carpet Rumble and then would defeat Royce Isaacs for Heritage title, and defended that proudly against top high level competition.
Right.
Adrian Quest, was instantly an exciting talent, and then came so close. Did advanced really far into the PP3.
Yeah.
A couple years back, and then had some real close calls for the TV title, and just it got to a point where and once Andy had lost the Heritage title, both guys I think felt kind of lost in the shuffle, and you had another guy that definitely had a chip on his shoulder in Ray Rosas. Here's a guy that was decorated tag team champion many times over. He was a television champion a couple times over, had great partnership with Peter Avalon, had a great feud with Peter Avalon, but never got pushed to the Heritage title. And I think always felt like he was in the shadow one way or another. And so that whole kind of who cares mentality came out of it, had it banded together, instant success. Rosas became the Arizona State champion, the PP3 Cup holder, and Brown and Quest became the tag champions. And it looked like they were on top of the world in terms of the United Wrestling Network. And then, egos and that green-eyed monster, sometimes a jealousy comes into play, and they split at the seams.
Yeah, I remember, and this is going to tug a few heartstrings, so I apologize in advance. I remember Ray training with John Ian. Like that's how far back I go with Ray Rosas. Like it's crazy how far. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago that we were down in Anaheim at the gym down there, but it was a long damn time ago, and. Alyssa, you were around, in your Kathy days, and watching these guys come up, and now you're seeing R&B come in from Vegas, and I saw the announcement, just not too long after last week's show with the partnership with FSW. You had two great tag teams from two completely different, essentially, organizations, opening up a hell of a pay-per-view, and they set the tone last night, did they not?
They really did. I think one of the most interesting things is the fact, and I think we were talking about it a bit on commentary, is that R&B, once they started tagging, they never really looked back. But Adrian Quest and Andy Brown, have been friends for a long time, trained together, have known each other for so long. But I feel like what's the best way to get a feel for each other's strengths and weaknesses than to keep yourselves as opponents as well? So they're not always on the same side of the ring. And I think that really helped them get to kind of know each other and become a cohesive unit.
I would agree with that, and it's like I said, I mentioned watching Ray Rosas come up, watching Andy develop and come up from Jesse's school and doing everything he's done with you guys, and then seeing Adrian Quest. I remember Adrian Quest, coming out, not to call it curtain jerking, because with the show like it's not really jobber match anymore, but opening the shows, and just being kind of like the Eric Bischoff, firework to start Nitro, just the big boom out of the gate. Adrian's been that guy for a long time. So to have all four of these great talents come in and battle for a title that has really become, I feel, one of the more important titles in not just SoCal, but across, the wrestling world, the United Tag Team Championships, there are some bins, the names, that list makes up some pretty tall cotton when you think about who's held those championships. And I thought these four guys just really let everybody know that, they had a kind of a follow that match. I thought, to start, it was short. Like Todd said, a lot of matches were short last night, but it was still, SoCal distancing with, I love the mask with it's a great gimmick. It's fantastic. And I think that these guys really said, okay, now we're on Primetime. Now we're on pay-per-view live, and we're the champions, and you guys got to come to us to take us out. I thought it was a very great message sent by Andy and Adrian that, they're not going anywhere.
And they are everywhere.
They are. They are everywhere. And I personally, as somebody, Andy, was a friend of the family, and I haven't talked to him forever, so I'm sure we're still, nice or whatever. But seeing Adrian succeed just warms my little ginger heart. It's just fantastic. I love it to pieces. And Todd, we went from this match, which again was just a complete tone setter, for the tag team championships, and we went into another crazy battle with Papa Don and I forgot who the opponent's name. I forget. I apologize.
Remy Marcel.
Marcel, thank you.
This was like it's
Todd.
Weird. Sometimes you
What do we say? We're everywhere, right?
You could have told me you were there, you jerk. I see how it is.
All right, let's talk more about that tag team title match.
Yeah, let's bring the champion and see if we can get the screen turns. We can get a dub. And I had no idea. I'm so kayfabe. I'm a terrible person. It's okay. Anyway, Papa Don and Remy, they really, again, another match that, I've seen bits and pieces of Remy here and there over the last little while, but not a whole lot. But I'm not familiar with Papa Don at all, so it was cool to see somebody I hadn't seen before.
So here's some insider stuff for you, because everybody at United wears a lot of hats and will be involved in a lot of different things. And we talked about Santino brothers. Joey Chaos Munoz is an agent and producer on Primetime Live. He's backstage. He helps with matchmaking. He's got a great eye for talent. I was not aware of the FSW partnership until it was announced, which makes sense that we would have, the Real Money Brothers. They're two-time FSW tag team champions, and you'd have Remy Marcel, who's a fixture in FSW. But I was actually instrumental in bringing the Real Money Brothers in.
Right, we did it last week. Yeah.
Originally, it was going to be Friendship Farm against the Bodega on week 2.
Okay.
And Pablo Esco had some sort of issue. Somebody probably owed him money. He had to rough him up.
Very likely.
So then I was just so overjoyed when and this is real life stuff. I was just so happy that the Real Money Brothers came in and then performed well and got the invite back. Had a great physical tag team title match with SoCal Distancing. So there's that. But now with Papa Don, so head official and producer Nick Bonanno is from the East Coast originally. And Papa Don is very much, a 20-year veteran, as we said on commentary, usually kind of sticks to the East Coast, obviously a hot wrestling scene out there, but is friends with Bonanno. So when we were putting matches together, Nick was like, well, how about Greek God Papa Don? He's a Super 8 tournament winner. He's, and we want to bring talent in from all over. So Nick Bonanno was very instrumental in bringing him in. So it just goes to show you how everybody's kind of working together to put on great matches on Primetime Live. And, I thought this was no exception. Last week, Slice Boogie, Carl Fredericks was super physical, and this matchup was super physical too.
Yeah. It very much feels like, and so, back then when we were all together at the showcase in Glendale, it felt very much like everybody was wearing a lot of hats. I'm saying we, like I was part of the presentation, like whatever. But it felt like everybody was wearing multiple. It's very much an ECW style feel as far as backstage, where everybody's doing 6 things, but it all comes off like gangbusters. And when it comes together, it's freaking magic. Alyssa, pardon my not remembering if you and Andy were. God, I'm an asshole. That's okay. Anyway, so having seen Remy and Papa Don go last night, that kind of seems to me that's going to showcase exactly how widespread the partnership's going to be, not only with FSW, but Todd mentioned last week here on the show with me, New Japan guys are coming in. There's the NWA partnership. It very much seems like to me, and this is me reaching here, so forgive me if I am, but it seems like everything that we as fans had seen, 15 years ago when Dave Marquez is really starting to, kind of take his NWA brand, quote unquote, and reach out into the wrestling world and bring people in. It's starting to come together, and I love that. I think that's fantastic.
It's fantastic because you really never know who you're going to see, from people, not to mention any names, but they're cutting promos about how disgruntled they are with the state of affairs to people that you're seeing competing inside the ring on a weekly basis. You really never know what's going to happen or who's going to show up across, this country or internationally.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling to know that I can turn on Fight TV Tuesday night. And I might see somebody I'll see the next day on TNT too. You never know who's going to pop into the Thunder Studios, and I think that's great. And by the way, props to Thunder Studios down in Long Beach, because from the outside, I haven't been inside yet because I don't go there because quarantine's a bad thing. But it seems like you guys got a really cool setup there. I think it's a great little studio. It reminds me a lot of the Ocean View and as well as Glendale. It's that very homey little atmosphere where if it was a thing where people could be there, it'd be a cool atmosphere to be a part of. So just my observations as I go along here in the week's thing. So I mentioned EWF earlier. We're talking about Andy Brown. Anthony Idol, where the hell did he come from? That's Anthony Idol. I haven't seen Anthony Idol on anything in forever, and there he is, getting up in Chris Dickinson's face. And I've learned already in 2 weeks, you don't get in Dickinson's face and not, deal with it right away. And Anthony Idol was no slouch, but Chris kind of put him in his place last night. Did you not, Todd?
Yeah, and just because we didn't touch on it too much, but the Papadon Remy Marcel match just quickly. I thought it was like really physical. And then it was fun for me because I had called matches with Marcel when he was a very, they almost were like the Fantastics. They wore like the bow ties and stuff when they came out. They're whirlwind gentlemen. And when he did that big spinning head scissors takedown, that was straight out of that playbook. So you saw the evolution of the character, but then just a brutal pile driver by Papadon. And so that was a lot of fun. But then, so now it's like my childhood is being resurrected because we have not only Saturday night's main event, blatantly Saturday night's main event promos to start the show. Now we've got backstage interviews with these two heavyweights coming face to face.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, Anthony Idol, the Neon Phenomenon, is like, you want to go? Let's go right now. And does the Hogan pose and goes out. Like, it's the greatest.
I was like, somebody give me a red yellow shirt and get me a Long Beach stat. Like, oh my God, I was chuckling like crazy. And, it's just so funny because Anthony Idol is such a gimmick. And not to go too far behind the curtain, he's not that far off in real life either. Anthony's kind of out there. So but he's a great guy. I've enjoyed his stuff for many, many years. They talk about, Jesse being around forever. Anthony's been, with them most of the time. Anthony's been around forever too. And it was cool to see Dickinson get another huge win as he starts mowing through these people that Marquez and Corgan are lining up for me. It's like, man, I'm waiting to see when we see Dickinson and get a shot at the United TV title, or maybe they put him against Murdoch now that Murdoch's a national champion, or Zicky Dice is coming back next week. We'll talk about that in the show. There's a lot of gold that Dickinson can get in as well. Yeah, I've been whooping ass left and right. Where's my shot? So there's a lot of meat on that Chris Dickinson bone, and I think that as long as the interviewer keeps quiet back there with him and doesn't get his mug smacked off, I think we'll be okay. Alyssa, don't you go back there and talk to him. He scares me. Just stay out of there. Stay right beside with Todd. Todd will shield you.
Well, and I think that's the thing. That's the thing too with Dickinson, his competition. After decimating Jordan Cruz, he had I think a little bit more of a physically intimidating opponent in Anthony Idol, and still the match went in his favor. He said though before that mouth of his has gotten him into trouble more than one occasion. He's used to being like climbing and getting knocked down. So you got to wonder, is it going to get him in trouble at Primetime Live?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, the second face you saw in history of Primetime Live was Chris. Dave's out there, trying to do, Walt Disney host guy, and Chris is like, no, shut up. My turn. And I'm like, okay, you're in the boss's face. You are talk about setting the tone for right away. And by the way, I forget which one of the broadcast team tweeted the four group shots, and then somebody and Dave, I'm not part of the team, and somebody put Dave's picture. He looks straight out of a Walt Disney 8x10. That was just fantastic. So whoever did that, God bless you. Yeah. Just tremendous. I love you, Dave. I do. Another match I felt was, it happened literally, last minute, kind of scrambling after the possibility of a COVID thing with Serena Deeb. But Allison Kay and Nikki Savo, I mean, just Allison Kay, I think, has been kind of not underappreciated, but definitely undersold by the people that are kind of, I don't know. It seems to me that everybody's focusing on Thunder Rosa so much, and they're forgetting that Allison Kay, went into the Conquer Cup last year and whooped ass to get that championship and dominated for most of 2019. And Thunder Rosa, did do herself a great credit by winning the championship, and there was a controversial rematch that had Melina involved, but I think Allison Kay is really starting to, again, you talk about, Alyssa mentioned, Chris's mouth getting him in trouble. Allison Kay is really, I mean, she almost made Valentine's ass last night for, not giving her the microphone. Allison Kay scares me. I don't know if I want to interview her either, to be honest with you. And I don't know where you think, Todd, but,
Allison Kay wants to take a microphone away from me, she's going to get the microphone. Hey, I tried. There you go. So yeah, that was interesting that, I guess the powers that be didn't want Allison Kay to have a live mic because of her, her vendetta for Thunder Rosa and the NWA Women's World Title. But let's look back at Allison Kay was a great NWA Women's World Champion who actually made her way out to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. She defended the title when she was the champion in Hollywood against Heather Monroe. So kind of helped set the stage for the stuff we're seeing now with Primetime Live. But yeah, I think last night, and then again, I think last night had a lot of the kind of MMA analogies and feel. And in fighting, sometimes somebody's going to go through a training camp and have a health issue. I mean, this obviously wasn't an injury; it was just a health concern with Serena Deeb. But you always have to be ready. You always have to be in shape. And Nicole Savoy certainly was. They had a history, so made it instantly meaningful. It didn't feel like a substitution or a replacement match. It was if anything, it had more story behind it because it was a true rubber match after they had both traded victory. So right. I thought, if you're going to have somebody the likes of a Serena Deeb fall out, on this particular card, it couldn't have worked out any better, in my estimation.
It really did. Now, Alyssa, you've been really. I've enjoyed your work. Interviewing the various women in the United Wrestling Network, and having your perspective on that division. It was definitely cool to see, like Todd said, a rubber match that we weren't expecting. That Serena had to bow out, and that's I applaud that. Hey, if there's a chance, stay home, man. It's follow the Sam Jackson model. Stay the F at home. Just don't even bother. But I thought Nicole and Allison, picked up that slack and ran down the field for a touchdown. It was a great match.
Oh, 100%. I think it was brutal. It was a fight, and I think each of them had something to prove to one another as well as to the fans at home, to everyone watching. Allison Kay, like you said, Todd, she's got a lot on her mind. She's been nothing if not vocal on social media about her kind of critiques of Thunder Rosa's La Mera Mera Destruction Tour. So I think that if you're not going to give her a live mic, she's going to get her message across another way. And I do think Nicole Savoy was an incredible competitor and really left it all out there with Allison Kay.
Yeah, if I'm Thunder Rosa watching that wherever I'm at last night, I'm going, okay, this could be something. Something down the line here. And you talk about the women's division, Todd, I don't know how, again, listen, I don't recall how far back you've gone with Ruby Reyes, but Ruby is another Santino graduate, and she, I was watching her manage, when I was working with Gary Yap back in my day, and she's been around longer than people realize, but she is even still now coming into her own as a competitor, and I thought she and Chanel did a great job last night of having to follow Allison and Nicole, which is no small task. But, back-to-back women's matches, all four women really tore it up, I thought.
Yeah, no doubt. And, and I know that Alyssa will have a lot to say on this, so I'll try and keep it brief. But I thought, again, and this has been kind of a theme of a lot of the online comments that I've seen just in the short history of this show is even a talent that has been on the losing side of things in these 3 weeks, their stock has risen. Somebody like a Slice Boogie being in there with Carl Fredericks, and somebody like Heather Monroe actually, giving Camille, who had been completely impervious to pain and unstoppable before, Heather found a way to find a chink in that armor. I think the same with CC Chanel. I think, that was probably the best. And CC Chanel's had great matches in Hollywood and has won matches. But I think even in a losing effort, that was the most aggressive I've seen her. It was the most resourceful I've seen her. And against an absolute monster in Ray's, like, I was really impressed. As impressed as I was with Ray's dominant performance, I was probably more impressed with CC Chanel than I ever have been.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of CC on the winning end when I've seen her on, but even in defeat, she came off looking stronger than I've seen her on recent outings that I've seen her. And like I said, Alyssa, I know you've worked with both of them quite frequently, and I think for you that's got to be a cool thing to see. The females of the company really starting to assert themselves, because I remember a time when Dave didn't book a whole lot of women's matches, period, and now we get two in the same night. That's pretty cool for me to see.
Well, and I think that's something too. So talking about international talent, CC Chanel came here about 6 years ago to the U.S. to pursue her dreams of becoming a professional wrestler. She's from Brisbane, Australia, and she actually trained at Santino's too. Santino's breeds ass kickers. So whether it's the equal opportunity ass kicker or the sweet and sassy Aussie ass kicker, you really had quite an incredible match between the two of them. I think too that as far as the women's division, even at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Ruby Ray's left Championship Wrestling from Hollywood because she had literally gone through the entire roster. There was no one left for her to face. Now that we're starting to see some new competition for her, it's brought her back. But I mean, even on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood right now, there's issues within the women's division. We, head matchmaker Nico Marquez trying to basically cancel the women's division, and luckily he doesn't really have a part in matchmaking at Primetime Live. But
God,
I think that was really all of that built up frustration. Think about the fact that not only has CC Chanel not really had much of a victorious streak on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, but she also is kind of being stifled over there. I mean, it led to a huge locker room brawl, and it led to, I think, her competition against Ruby Ray's.
Yeah, it's just funny to see how much competition there is now. I remember one of the first shows I went to at the Region Showcase out in Hollywood. It was a super treat to see Lucky O'Shea against Davina Rose. Like, it was like, and then when I look back, I go, hey, wait a minute, I recognize Bailey from somewhere. It's like, I saw her back in Hollywood. It was really cool to see her evolution over the years. It's been cool to see how far Bailey's come, and it's cool that she was able to come down from NorCal and get a little tumble time in Hollywood. It was really cool. You talked about evolving characters. Todd, you mentioned earlier Robert Baines, Hobo, Brandon. He talk about a jack of all trades. I think he wears like 200 hats backstage. 95 of them are hobo hats, and that's okay. We're not judging your hat style, Brandon. It's all good. You gotta do you, boo. But I am so impressed with how far he's come as a talent in ring, on the mic, and as a person. He is just a quality person, and so far removed from this Robert Baines character, who's just a freaking destroyer. And it's very cool to see people like that, because Brandon's not that guy. He's so just low key and just chill, and Robert Baines is not. He is just go in there, whoop your ass, next. And he had a hell of a thing last night with, as you said, Jack Hartwheel, who was getting his feet wet for the first time on a global broadcast. Good for him, man. A great outing. Again, not the most fun of nights for Jack, but still a stellar presentation by both guys.
Yeah. Two things I want to mention really quick before I forget. One was just back to the Ruby Rays to finish that matchup. I thought it was so funny. the United social media put out the clip of that finish, with like a vertebraker basically just as bad. And I remember in the replay, the comment, I made was nasty business. And that's what they quoted in the tweet. And sometimes the commentary, a lot of wrestlers will have names for stuff, and you'll get with them, and we'll take our notes. Alyssa takes copious notes and is very educated throughout the broadcast. But sometimes we get nothing, and so that's the first thing that came to mind was nasty business.
Yeah, that tickled me when I saw it. I'm like, oh, they're quote tweeting Todd. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, because we saw him earlier. There we go, nasty business.
Jesus, just fantastic. Oh my goodness, look at that. Just God, that can't not hurt.
Yeah, that is truly nasty business. The other thing I wanted to mention briefly was Andy Brown.
Yes.
Like during the pandemic, and again, good things have come of it. One has been Primetime Live, because if there was still NWA Power, this probably wouldn't be happening with the NWA being involved. But on top of that was the United Wrestling Network staff really went into full-scale production mode during the pandemic to bring the fans closer to the UWN talent with these, the Push, which are these documentary pieces, Heritage Hall, which are, top matches of top talent that has come through. But the recent Push, which just landed today, is Andy Brown. And it's a very telling piece, because Andy talked about never really seeing himself as a television wrestler because he didn't think that he fit that mold, just look-wise, body-wise, everything else. He always knew that he could make it in the ring. Action-wise, yeah, there it is. And I mean, I just like Andy's one of the hardest hitters, certainly in the United Wrestling Network, and always has such confidence that this is a side that I absolutely, even, as a broadcaster that tries to do my research, I never knew that this rented space in his head. And so for anybody that thought maybe you couldn't do it or because you look a certain way or something like that, it's a very inspirational piece. You should really check it out.
Yeah, I will forever say great things. Shut up. Well, I was going to say all first good things about him because he got to chime in and not get my camera to hell with him. It's just...
We're officially off the rails now, guys.
By the way, Andy, Dylan's down the hall. He says he misses you, bro. Just so you know. Oh, Lordy. Okay, back on track.
Okay, so yeah, Robert Baines.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alyssa. Robert Baines, Matt Cartwright was a match we didn't know we were going to get, and we're glad that we did. And what did you think, Alyssa? What was it like for you being a broadcaster where all of a sudden in our cams, like, oh, well, we're getting a bonus match? We hadn't necessarily taken notes on these guys.
For the brief time that we did talk to Jack Cartwright, I was really impressed with just even at 19 years old, how many accomplishments he has. From being a skilled athlete, as an amateur wrestler, as a football player, so he has the strong ground game, but then he has this gymnastics background that's out of this world. If you could see by his entrance, back handspringing down the entrance ramp. So he definitely has the high flying as well. But there's something to be said when you're standing across the ring from Robert Baines. Someone that we've talked about, people kind of not devolving, but just really twisting and changing. We've seen a lot of this from our United World Tag Team Champions to Remy Marcel to Robert Baines. Just things happen that change a person. And I think Robert Baines is certainly one of those people.
Yeah, I remember, and God, this is gonna age all of us, but mainly me. I remember the Hobo's debut at the Fit Pit, like back in the day, like when Ryan was still training before he became Mr. WWE Booster guy. Just he's, like you said, I use the word devolved in storyline as far as he's become this darker character, but the evolution of Brandon, the Hobo, and the Robert and Baines, just again, another guy I will never say a bad thing about. He's so impressed me in the last few years where he's really, allowed himself to go from this character of, fun-loving, teaming with Jervis, always the happy guy and everything, and just he is not that guy. And you talk about another guy that really has allowed himself to, change with the way wrestling is changing and the way that he needs to allow his character to evolve. You got to talk about Aaron Stevens. I mean, Aaron Stevens, from a fan perspective, I know you guys are fans obviously too, but you guys are more in there than I am. But from a fan's perspective, completely outside of the business, Damian Sandow was ridiculously underutilized, and they had a really marketable thing going. First of all, they had a great thing with him and Miz, which I thought was just ridiculous. It was so funny, and so both guys are so talented. And we all in SoCal saw Michael Zanuck come up from real world dork to UPW trainee to everything he's done. But Aaron Stevens went from that. He had the thing briefly with Joe Henning before Hulk got himself in trouble, and they had to cancel the. There went Kathy. Kathy's last listen. There you go. There she goes. He did the thing with the meta powers or whatever the hell they were called, and then he was just gone. It's like, well, we got nothing for you, so bye. And he has taken that and went, you know what? I can still do wrestling, and he's doing the acting thing too. And I think he's been one of the shining points of the. I think Aaron's. There she is. I think that Aaron's been one of the bright shining points of the NWA presentation since the buyout by Billy Corgan, and I think that he and question mark. I'm not gonna whatever. That's been great, and I think that he was up until about 21 hours ago. He was a great national champion and a great guy to hold that title and run with it and be a cheater and be a heel and retain any way he can. But man, I love me some Trevor Murdoch. Todd, you and I talked about Harley Race last week and how instrumental he's been in the evolution of the NWA the last 40 years, almost the entire NWA history period, but mainly since he became champion in '73. And he brought Murdoch into this business, and just we saw a moment last night, and I think both of you will agree as fans and as people working for the Wrestling Network that Trevor Murdoch becoming the national champion, I thought was just a thing of beauty that you don't really get to see a whole lot. It was a great moment in time. Yeah, and there's so much. It's just weird how there's so much synergy sometimes because it was Harley Race that in essence brought Dave Marquez into the business in Missouri, right? With World Legion Wrestling, and Dave worked, alongside Harley and Gordon Soley, and so you can definitely see that influence on Marquez. And then likewise, Trevor Murdoch training under 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and that played into this story because when Aaron Stevens would run and hide and hit behind a Christmas tree to win the title and utilize the question mark, or ran and held on to the title with a DQ with Scott Steiner at hard times, and then ran and got the time limit draw with Murdoch. It made it where it was such a great dichotomy where you have somebody that finds a way to hold on to the title. And he's the type of guy, Aaron Stevens, who will make a traditional pro wrestling fan just pull out their hair. It's like, no, somebody's got to beat this guy up. Somebody's got to get their hands on this guy. And who better, than Trevor Murdoch? Blue collar, respect for the business, never quite got his due when it comes to a major singles title. And it just made for a real life theater. And then especially when he won it, I mean, it was palpable. It was real life emotion. That post-match speech, showing his family, Dad won, I'm coming home. I mean, my God, that was storybook stuff. That was powerful stuff and very real stuff. Yeah, and that's the thing. It felt people use that 4-letter F word, and not the one I'm talking about with most people, but the other 4-letter F word about wrestling. That was 100% real. It felt like almost like the Mick Foley moment when he became champion for the first time, because that was like all of us going, Yeah, that's our guy. Right on. And I mean, I'm sure you guys at ringside were. I heard on commentary, you guys were overjoyed for Trevor.
It was really a very emotional moment.
Right.
I think that it was so much had built up to this. The fact that Aaron Stevens hadn't had a decisive, successful victory in any of his title matches to retain that title.
Right.
I think that it gave so much to the fact that Trevor Murdoch, after missing out on the opportunity for Crockett Cup to happen, everything that they had been working toward and preparing for, like the rest of the world, having that pulled out from under you, and now to finally be able to have this match. And I think Aaron Stevens stepped it up too. You could see kind of partway through that match, something shifted in Aaron Stevens, because I feel like he saw that the title was in jeopardy. He saw that there, for all the tricks and tactics and antics that he was trying to pull, it wasn't enough to keep Trevor Murdoch down. There was an episode of NWA Power Surge that had aired, and it was never before seen interview, a sit-down interview. And Aaron Stevens said that he lived a third-degree lifestyle because he was the third-degree national champion. And he said that meant that he has a lot of other things he's doing, and he doesn't have to love this and be passionate about it to just be really, really damn good at it. And I think that's such an affront to the fact that Trevor Murdoch said, this is my life. This is, this means so much to me. I'm so passionate about this. I live for this, and this could be my last opportunity. I think that there was no prying that title and that opportunity out of the hands of Trevor Murdoch.
No, and I found myself hearkening back about a decade or so with Lance Cade being around and him being partners with Murdoch. And, Lance Cade was also another project of the Indies, and, with Shawn Michaels training him, and, and I think Lance Cade came through Marquez's company. Did he not at one point, Todd?
He did. He was Cade and Murdoch as a team were on
that's right.
earliest incarnation of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at the Columbia Square Studios tapings.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's just crazy how much it comes full circle. I know that David Marquez was really happy that moment of Murdoch finally winning this title happened on the United Wrestling Network program, especially when you think about the connection that Marquez has with Harley. I can just sense, just in his post, that it meant a lot. And then it's interesting too, when it comes to Aaron Stevens, I saw that Aaron posted today that Adios Pro Wrestling. I'd say it's been fun, but I was robbed. Speaking, maybe more than just last night's match, because here's a guy that is so talented, is so versatile, and was kind of robbed throughout his career in terms of really getting his just due, given his talent and his ability to entertain. And I, for one, certainly hope it's not the last that we've seen of Aaron Stevens as a competitor. He's still very much involved with United Wrestling Network behind the scenes. But I think you mentioned it. I think he really allowed and helped shape what NWA Power became, and allowed it to be silly, allowed it to be goofy, in addition to being very traditional. He was kind of that bridge, because you remember in the early days of Power, stuff like this, silence, and don't, no eye contact, and Tropical Pirates, to Mongrovian Karate, and then everything else. Right. He was such an entertaining part of that show, and then it was great that we could feature the kind of payoff of that feud last night.
Would you both agree? And Todd, you mentioned I actually had that literally right here. Aaron Stevens was like one of the very few acts of Power that wasn't like your old traditional 605 Saturday afternoon TBS stuff, because when Shivani and Crockett were out there, it was all about, you come to the podium, you do your thing, and you wrestle. Flair on the horseman, they would get wound up and, get tie up about, Magnum this and Dusty that. But it was still focused on the wrestling. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to retain my title. It was what it was. And Aaron Stevens and the question mark were like, yeah, we can do that, but we're going to be goofy as hell in the process. I thought they were a great counterpoint to the traditional stuff, like you mentioned on Power. I thought, and whatever we do, return to whatever normalcy we get come next year, that they are part of the presentation, because I think both of them are tremendous. And I thought question mark in his previous incarnation, him, I still say there's a lot of stuff left with him and Tim Storm if Tim wants to work, and I think there's so much more that he can do, and Aaron Stevens as well. I think they're both. There's much more to go for both those guys. So, but we'll see how things play out. Next week on the show, we've got just all kinds of stuff going on. Let me so I can get the graphic without too much of a hassle, which is always a chore, but because this damn thing is never easy for me over here. There's a lot of things. I mean, already we've got three things announced going on. We've got Chris Dickinson back in the ring against looks like Max Caster. I'm not familiar with Max. Either of you can help me out with Max?
Max, great talent. Will kind of insult rap promo his opponent leading in. So I'm sure we'll get that hopefully this week, maybe in social media. And then I cringe at the response, that the physical response and verbal response that Dickinson will have. But this is another talent that Nick Bonanno had his eye on, and it was kind of instrumental in bringing in Max Caster. Whereas David Marquez, was very vocal in Chris Dickinson being a big part of the program. So it's, again, some of the various office of United Wrestling Network going to bat for certain talent. And this was a match I didn't know about until it came up on the graphics last night at the desk, and it should be another exciting challenge. And we'll see if somebody can step up and can shut up the Dirty Daddy.
There you go. And then Alyssa, everybody's favorite Big Mouth, Levi. Talk about Big Mouth, Levi Shapiro, and Hattie Price. Again, I want to talk about Hattie here in just a second, but Brian Idol, there's a jack-looking gentleman himself there. Levi's got another tall order ahead of him there, it looks like to me.
Absolutely. I think Levi Shapiro is coming back even more frustrated than ever after his match against Dan Joseph at the first episode of Primetime Live. So you got to imagine Levi's coming in there a little hot under the collar, and he's got quite a challenger in Brian Idol.
He really does. And then a main event match that they promoted. Let's see if I get this thing to load here. There it goes. Nope. Crap. Hang on. Sorry. Too many clicks. There we go. And then this one, I'm looking forward to this because I love the three guys mentioned, and I can't wait to see who Zicky brings into the studio. You got Zicky Dice, who I could have sworn that he vacated the title or he was stripped or whatever, but he is still the TV champion against our boy Watts and the Pope, man. That's going to be, I mean, Todd, these three guys, the last few years of Wrestling Hollywood and the NWA have been three of the bigger names, no?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and it was good to see because I think Zicky Dice was one of those talents that I think NWA fans just weren't sure of. He, throughout the pandemic, had mentioned milestones of his title reign in terms of number of days.
Right.
There was some scuttlebutt that he was maybe going to try and leave the NWA, but certainly now. It was announced last night, made it official that that's not the case. He's going to find a way to preserve that title reign a little bit longer because it, of course, won't be on the line in this tag team match. But other interesting things here, too, is that Watts had a great showing against Eli Drake, got overconfident, came up short. So now being involved in this match, it shows me that Watts certainly is on the radar of William Patrick Corgan and the NWA. The Pope has an eye for talent. You'll recall with Eddie Kingston and Homicide and what went on with that, and the Dawsons and the Bouncers and everything that went on Power. That he may be, he's been kind of part manager, part wrestler, kind of player coach. So maybe he sees something in mentoring Watts. And then there's, of course, the big X factor of who will be the outlandish tag team partner of Zicky Dice.
Yeah, and Alyssa, we were talking, Todd and I, about people wearing many hats. Pope wears many hats on TV alone, man. He's a manager, he's an announcer, he's a wrestler, and people forget, he was in a showcase match at WrestleMania 13 years ago, and he looks, he's got that R-Truth aging potion, I swear. He looks exactly like he did at WrestleMania. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I think that this is going to be, and I want to clarify, it's going to be a fun fest because you got,
yes.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that from the end of the broadcast. Fun fest.
Fun fest, yes.
So obviously, you have Zicky Dice, who's a very outlandish personality. He's got the $60,000 fanny pack. He's got the TV title. You've got to imagine whoever's going to be partnered with him, they've got to step up and hopefully be as outlandish to really jive well with.
Is that even possible? Is that even possible to be anywhere near as outlandish as Zicky Dice? I don't know if that's humanly possible for anybody.
They're gonna have to do their best, whoever it is.
Yeah, I have to try.
But also, it's the idea too that Watts, I think, just mindset wise, we were talking about how he did get a little bit overconfident against Eli Drake. We were starting to see a little bit of the old Watts coming back. He had disappeared from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and hopefully with the Pope, some guidance and some cohesion might score them a victory that could really, I think, cement Watts and kind of get his mindset back straight,
And I wonder with the Pope being involved in that match, is there focus on getting back on track? Is there focus on, challenging SoCal Distancing? Is there focus on challenging Eli and James Storm? That's the thing. Where are these tag teams looking toward once they have a victory? Andy and Adrian defended the titles last night, but they're on the same radar as the NWA champions. So it's not out of the possibility that we could see a champion versus champion tag team match down the line. So many possibilities. And again, we mentioned the partnerships with the NWA and the United Wrestling Network and with New Japan and with AEW. We're having an agreement, and I feel this is as close as we're going to get to a Pro Wrestling USA thing. If you're too young to know what I'm talking about, go look it up on Google, kids. Without the thought of, if we don't succeed, we're all going to tank, because there's so much collective talent in this pool that we talked about this, you and I did earlier. The possibilities of promotion crossing are endless, and I just love that about this right now. It's fantastic. Can't wait to see how.
There's nothing but opportunity out there, and like you said, the talent is there, and United Wrestling Network with the partnership with NWA, FSW, New Japan. There's nothing but opportunities. The sky's really the limit.
Yeah, and with the G1 going on, it seems like every hour of the day right now over there in the rising sun. There's a lot of talent that with the right connection, we can see the G1 winner, come in and do something. Endless possibilities. I can't wait to cover next week's show on Wednesdays here on the Jeff Beacham Network and with Aaron Griffin, No DQ, and everybody in the Great Cherry brand. I have to thank both of you again. Todd, I appreciate you being a co-host every week. Alyssa, the door is always open. Andy, you too, I guess, if you want to tag along, you jerk. Whatever works. So it's fine. But thank you both, and I'll ask you guys to stay online with me when I end the broadcast. So thank you all for joining us this week. We will see you next week right here each and every Wednesday. As long as there is Primetime Live, there will be a recap of Primetime Live right here on the Jeff Beacham Network.